you are thinking about IVF, it is going to be incredibly expensive.
The insurance didn't cover any of it, so we had to cover all of the costs, both the medical procedures and the medication.
Yeah, he loved her. He should have just found a new wife and said, look, you got your tubes tied. I want a kid. Sorry, next.
And that's when this sort of takes a direction that nobody was expecting, because the option that you chose was to rob a bank. Why?
You know, whenever a guy does a bad thing, not all the time, but a lot of the time, a woman really is behind it. I mean, you guys got to start doing what women do to you back. What up, guys? Welcome to my reaction series. And today I'm going to be reacting to a man who robbed banks to pay for an IVF treatment. As you guys know, we keep waiting longer and longer and longer to have children, and men are the ones that are going to eventually have to pay for it. When women make bad decisions or different decisions that maybe I could say, you guys will pay for it. If we're a single mother, we'll find one of you guys to take care of it. If we're homeless, we'll make the government take care of us. They just won't let us face the consequences for our decisions. So here we have a man who's robbing banks to pay for his wife's IVF.
Next guest was raised in Wales, had an idyllic childhood with all the privileges of a private school education.
So how on earth did Reed Domingo end up spending nearly 4 years in an American jail for bank robbery? Well, Reed joins us now to share his remarkable story. Welcome. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you.
This is really about a journey to becoming a parent, that desire, and what you will go to become a father. So just explain a little bit about the IVF journey, because this is your wife, Patrice. She underwent 9 rounds of IVF over 5 years. So what was kind of the circumstances leading up to that? Why was that so necessary?
Primarily because
she doesn't even look that old that she got married.
Early 20s, Patrice lost one fallopian tube through an ectopic pregnancy. And then after the delivery of her 3rd child, she had the other tube cut because she wasn't expecting to get divorced and let alone have any more children.
So you had you'd moved to America to work for your father's company, a biotech company, and that's where you met Patrice and settled down in America.
Yes.
And where we know that if you are thinking about IVF, it is going to be incredibly expensive. And so tell us about that funding of, before we get onto the main story, how difficult was it for you guys to pay for it? What was at risk?
Yeah, so again, women make a decision, society will pay for it. So women wanted to go to college, society started subsidizing education in the 70s. Women wanted to wait to have kids, now the government's gonna subsidize IVF. So women, like, if something's free from the government, just assume women are at the end of it.
As you said, the insurance didn't cover any of it, so we had to cover all of the costs, both the medical procedures and the medication. At the time when we first started this process, we both had good jobs. As you said, I was working for my father as a director of sales, and Patrice was the regional director of 15 gyms for group exercise. So we had the means to fund it ourselves to start off with. And because we were just trying to circumnavigate the fact that she didn't have any tubes, we're both healthy individuals, it was supposed to be one time, and that was supposed to be it. So each round costs about approximately, say, $15,000 to do one round of IVF. At least it was in '92.
So then, by the end of that, you accumulate a debt of $250,000, which
because we did 9 times.
A lot of money. So you to pay for this, you liquidate nearly everything you own, you remortgage the house, so you're really trying to find a way.
Yeah, he loved her. He should have just found a new wife and said, look, you got your tubes tied, I want a kid. Sorry, next. Women do it to you guys all the time. They have starter husbands. I mean, you guys got to start doing what women do to you back. Do you know what I mean? Like, we do something to you guys and you guys are like, no, let me do the right thing. No. Do you know what I mean?
Way of paying.
Put the women on alimony. Put the women on child support. Tell the women that you're going to do better and you're just a starter wife.
Off this debt, there's nothing left to sell. The debt's still very much there. And that's when this takes a direction that nobody was expecting, because the option that you chose was to rob a bank. Why?
It's absolutely crazy, and obviously I never thought I would find myself in that situation. This was obviously, 2, 3...
You know, whenever a guy does a bad thing, not all the time, but a lot of the time, a woman really is behind it. Either it's the guy's messed up from his childhood, which was a woman, or he does something because he wants to make money for women. Or he's trying to commit crimes so women will sleep with him. Again, women.
3 years of heavy pressures, financial pressures that I was bearing. And I was working for a bank by this time. And even though I wasn't customer facing, I went through bank training that told me what you had to do in the event of a bank robbery. And it was based on that training that, in conjunction with all of the pressures, that one day I just thought, you know, that's the solution.
Well, you were you writing sort of software for them, I think.
Correct.
Yeah. And so you'd sold everything. The one thing you did keep was your motorcycle helmets because you loved your bikes, which came in very handy because I think you ended up being called the Easy Rider Bandit. I think was.
Yeah, the FBI always gives you a moniker.
Yeah, and so because of this work with the bank, you do have access to these manuals, and those manuals contain information that gave you the means to rob a bank, which you were very casual about. I mean, you crack on with your day, rob a bank, and then crack on with your day again.
Yeah, I don't want to sound flippant about it, but I basically used to schedule the bank robberies during my lunchtime. So, and because I was a software engineer, I'd come in very early in the morning, 6 o'clock. So I would go to lunch around 9:30, 10 o'clock in the morning. That was the time that I chose to rob a bank. I would go out, rob a bank, go pick up some lunch, go back to work.
Well, one of them was that your daughter was in the car.
Oh, okay, yeah. That was in the afternoon. It was like, we're all parents. We know what it's like. I was planning on robbing a bank that day, and right before I was ready to leave, Patrice calls me and says, okay, don't forget, meet me at the club so we can swap cars, and don't forget you're picking up our daughter, which we call Chummy. You got to pick up Chummy. And it's like, oh, you're kidding me. So I went, I picked up Chummy, and I was going to go to the gym, and I looked over. Chummy was fast asleep. And I thought, if you're efficient, you can get this done. So I drove to a bank, parked under a tree in the shades. Chummy was fast asleep. I went in, I robbed the bank, I came out, I went to the gym, I exchanged cars with Patrice, who berated me. You got 5 minutes before your class starts. And it's like, sweetheart, I'm just robbing a bank, you know.
So, but she didn't know. Yeah. She had no idea.
Oh, my wife had no idea. There is no way I could tell Patrice what I was doing because I would burden her with that knowledge. And every time we were out, if we saw a police officer or a police car, she would think, is this the time to come?
2 of your best friends were police officers.
Yeah, the 2 people that I met when I first went to the United States in 1986, 2 of my best friends to this date. One of them was the best man at my wedding. One is a sergeant in the San Diego Police Department. Yeah. The other is the special agent in charge of the DEA. Well,
you did this for a year, and then eventually the FBI was contacted by a manager at a different bank who recognised you as a customer.
Correct.
One of the CCTV footages. The FBI knock on your door, at which point, I mean, it must have been terrifying for everybody in your family, particularly for Patrice, who had no idea that any of this was going on.
Yes. Yeah, it was at 5 o'clock in the morning, 3rd of June, 2002. There's a banging at our front door. Beautiful sunshine, Southern California. I get up, I'm walking to the door, bang, 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 bang. And when I get to the door, I was like, somebody's going to be on the ground. I open the door, and it's bing, bing, bing.
You've got
FBI.
The red dots on you.
3 red dots on my chest. FBI, get on the ground. Or words to that effect.
So your house is then turned over, as you would expect it to be, and you are then carted off to prison. So, I mean, this is all in the podcast, so we'll condense it just slightly. So you serve your time in prison. You are then extradited.
And I pleaded guilty, so I did not take this to trial.
And you said at no point do you condone any of your actions, and you served your time for it, and they were desperate measures. Not that that's an excuse, but you're extradited. You end up back in the UK, and where we find you now is the fact that Patrice and your daughter came over. They spent time here. Daughter was educated for some of her life here, and then went back for various family reasons to go and look after parents, that sort of thing. You are separated now as a family.
Correct.
And it was only 8 weeks ago that you told your 25-year-old daughter what had happened.
Absolutely, and I think as any parent, you are there always to protect your child. When everything went down in 2002, our daughter Angelique, we call Chummy, was 4 years of age. How do you explain to a 4-year-old your father's going to prison for robbing banks?
Yeah.
So right at that moment, obviously...
You really can't. I don't know how nobody told her, though.
We said nothing. Then comes the point, when is the time that you tell her? When she's 6, when she's 10, 15?
I mean, at least he's still with the mom. We do have a tendency to do that. We'll stick it with you if you're a criminal. If you're a stand-up guy,
Released and deported back to the United Kingdom. Ultimately, Patrice and Chummy came and lived with me here in the United Kingdom. Based on the information that we'd received from the federal government about returning, in 2013, Patrice went ahead to try and set things up for us with the expectation that in 2016, upon Chummy completing her A-levels, we would all go back.
What was her reaction when you told her, your 25-year-old daughter who said, you know, this is my background, I robbed banks, I went to prison, I was extradited, and this is all stuff you don't know?
Yes. When I told her, I'm so blessed as a father to have the little girl that I do. I say little girl, she's about to be 25. She sat, she listened, you know, patiently. It was a little teary for her, but more than anything, it was like, ah, Daddy, that fills in all the blanks. Now I know why you never came and spent Christmas with us, why you didn't come over in the summertime when I was out of school.
You can't get back in, can you?
At the moment, no. I'm not allowed to re-enter the United States.
yeah, I mean, that'll do it if you rob. If you come in and rob banks, I mean, that'll kind of do it. That'll do it.
The problem with that is the fact that their top line thing, they kept on telling me, you need to do something else, do something else, do something else. Ultimately, I embarked on something in 2019, which I believed was the final step. They said it would take about a year, but obviously in 2020, we were...
I mean, to be honest, I say don't let him back in. I mean, you committed a crime. Like, why? I understand, like, people want to, he's like a good-looking business guy. Like, he looks, you know, like a guy you'd see in like a normal neighborhood, or, you know, like a normal guy. But if you come into the country and commit a crime, I don't really want you to come back. Like, that's do you know how many people are dying to get into America? I get it. You had a kid here. Tell her to come see you. I don't want you robbing banks again. I hope he doesn't, right? But if you're not an American and you come commit a crime on American soil, I don't think you should be allowed back in.
Went into
Sorry to the daughter, but just say this is, maybe she'll understand. She'll be like the only women that understand consequences for actions, right?
At the pandemic and the lockdown. So unfortunately, it wasn't until November 22 that the US government finally gave me the decision, and they said, no, we will not give you a waiver.
So you just have to sit and wait to see if anything changes and keep fighting.
I got no sympathy. You robbed banks. Like I get it. He can, you know, do this sob story or whatever. But yeah, you robbed a bank. So that's called a consequence. So.
Your story, because it is fascinating and there's a lot more details that we haven't had time to go into, is on your podcast.
I mean, a lot of people spend money on IVF. Not everybody robs a bank. So if it was up to me, I would stamp Naysky, and I would let in, instead I would let in the guy that's been here illegally for 20 years and hasn't committed crimes. Well, I guess it is a crime, but you guys see what I mean, the severity. Like, I would prefer someone that's been here illegally and has not committed a crime over somebody that was here legally and committed a crime. I'd prefer neither. I think I'm catch-22ing myself because that is a crime. But one is far worse, right? Anyways. Let me know what you guys think. Although, because you are robbing Americans of their tax dollars, because we all got to pay for, you know what? I'll take neither. Anyways, guys, like the video on your way out. Subscribe to the channel, ring the notification bell, and I'll see ya. Bye-bye.